welcome to our first episode of Off the Court. We're your hosts, Nell
and Rihanna.
and today we have a very special guest, our first guest of the show, Mr. Evan Martin, a athlete, somebody that goes to our school, and a trainer. So how are you doing today, Mr. Martin?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So Mr. Martin plays professional basketball. Where did you play basketball?
Years removed from Europe, I was in a city called Nyon, which is in Switzerland, outside of Geneva. So Geneva and Zurich is one of the main airport locations where you fly into.
So where did you grow up?
West side of Wilmington. Then end up moving to Newark. So I'm a Delaware kid, Wilmington baby.
What was like the culture of basketball there that you grew up in?
There was a part of the fabric of our community. You played every day. My dad was the one that put a milk crate on the telephone pole for us to play, so we could play right outside of our house. So every day.
Did you like grow up with anybody to look up to, like where it was like you was at the park and you seen somebody playing, you was like, I want to play like them, or like an NBA player?
Not really an NBA player. It was more so like community heroes, the ones that made out a community that played professionally. You had Terry Stansberry that lost to Michael Jordan in the slam dunk competition for the Indiana Pacers. You had AJ English. You had Ralph Blaylock that was in Europe, one of the top players in Euro basketball. So those guys were kind of accessible and you can kind of see them. Mm-hmm. So those were the ones that I looked up to.
Yeah. I know you traveled a lot when you played professional basketball. What are some places that you traveled to and like your experiences over there?
Yes, so that was one of the perks of playing growing up. You almost visited every state, which you wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So that got me out nationally, even onto the West Coast, which I wouldn't have went to outside of that, or outside of basketball. Europe, you travel on train to your games. If it was local, you would catch a bus, but it was more so train, so you could sightsee. You've seen the different cultures and things in Europe, so that was fun, even going across the line to France. So that was very interesting.
So like, what would you say to student athletes who are afraid to take that next step in their sports career?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say more so preparation. You can do everything right, and sometimes things don't materialize the way that you want, but you don't want to have where time meets opportunity and you're not prepared. So I always say it's the work ethic that you put in. That's why I said earlier, it's every day. So you train, you practice mentally, physically, socially, emotionally. All that encompasses just the sport, because it's not something you turn on and turn off. Think you're going to go onto a court and play and be the best version of you. No, that happens every day. And that's one foot in front of the other.
So I think we're both we're student athletes at one point, and we definitely understand like going to school in the morning, doing work, having homework after practice, stuff like that. So what do you have to say to student athletes who are struggling in that area, doing work and keeping up with basketball and keeping up with family too? Like, what do you have advice for them too?
Just be structured. I would suggest getting an agenda book. Sometimes you put things in your phone and technology fails, batteries die on your cell phone or what have you. So having an agenda book and being structured, this way you can balance your time. And the phrase out of sight, out of mind. So sometimes you may miss something, or you miss a deadline, or you forget. So just having that structure will create a system for you. Practice time, game time, homework time, even social time, when you want to go to the movies or enjoy entertainment. So you can kind of balance out that way. You don't want to do all things on one side and then something end up suffering. Even time with your family, like you said, you need to have a good balance. So that's the main thing I would say.
And so, like, how do you overcome self-doubt, being your biggest competition?
That's a great question. So you are your biggest competition. That's some things I pour into the kids that I train, even my own children, that the self-doubt comes within. That's why it's called self-doubt. So I'm a firm believer in God, so I keep my faith in. I pray a lot, and that's when you have those days that don't go as well. That's where you get that internal motivation, that drive, that grit, that work ethic, and that kind of gets you out of those kind of days, because it's not always going to be sunshine. You know what I mean? So those days, if you can weather the storm during those days, then the good days is going to be easier.
So I know you are a student advisor at our school here, and you deal with a lot of kids. Do you know, like, you connect with a lot of student athletes, definitely connected with a lot of the basketball teams and stuff like that. How do you kind of like take your experiences from when you played basketball in high school and stuff and kind of translate it to them and kind of show them like the right ways and stuff?
Great question. So with being a student advisor, like you say, you come in contact with a lot of different students. ones that are student athletes and ones that are not. I give advice which will give you the best quality of life. I give you advice that will not affect your conscience, making good decisions, good choices, and that if you're an athlete or if you're not an athlete. Would identify with the basketball team, being a professional basketball player, former professional basketball player, I know what they're going through. So I try to keep a good balance because I could just spend all my time in the gym, but then you have football players, you have wrestlers, you have people that's on the track and field team. So whenever someone comes up to me for advice, I just try to give them from the lens of what I did or what I would do, and it's up to them how they take that. But you always try to put somebody, I think, leave people better than you found them. Leave people better than you found them. You know, so that's one of the morals or pillars that I go off of.
And do you have like any training tips for the student athletes?
Yeah, so a lot of people want to know how to, especially in basketball, how to do one thing that they're weak at. There's so many different things that you can do in a game of basketball. There's a plethora of different things. I made a post the other day that it was a player was 2 for 11. He missed 9 shots. It only takes about 1 second to take a shot, make or miss. So out of a 40-minute game, it was only 9 seconds that he missed those shots out of the time. Yeah. So he had 38 minutes and 52 seconds. It's a lot of things that go into that. So you have to holistically prepare your body. Like I said earlier, your mind, body, soul, and spirit, but physically, your footwork, your cardio, rebounding, defense, dribbling, those are things that you're playing the game of basketball without the basketball in your hand. Outside of dribbling, you're not going to shoot every time. So obviously you need to work on being ambidextrous, what you do on your left, you do on your right, your footwork matching your ball handling. There's a number of different things that go into it. So when they ask me one specific question about how do I get better at shooting or how do I get better at coming off the curl, hitting the jump shot, or how do I fade to the corner, hit a jump shot, it goes back to those pillars of foundation, footwork, balance, and then we get into, the extra stuff.
I know you train at the lab. And in the lab, I've been there before. It's a great experience. Kind of like, what type of stuff do you do there? Like, I know I seen your Instagram post. Shout out your Instagram over there. But I know I seen some of your Instagram posts. So like, kind of like, what is your goal when you train these kids?
Thank you for that off the bounce performance. But so there's a number of different things that we do in there. I've been blessed with the owner giving me a key to it, so I can kind of finesse my schedule the way that I would like to also accommodate my parents and the players. But we have the Vertimax. There's what you call cut work, where they're dumbbells and you do a lot of upper extremities and a lot of like lifting that helps prepare your upper body, especially getting your shot off. And then we just go over, we have different equipment in there that will help, what I said earlier, that will help allow your footwork to match your ball handling. Obviously, we have the shoot machine, you get your reps in. I normally will start or end with that. Anybody can shoot fresh. It's hard to shoot fatigue when your legs is going after workout, so I try to emphasize getting up, a number of different shots according to the person after the workout. And then we just get after it. I mean, can't reveal all my secrets, but we just get after it. And it's just, I got 9-year-olds to professional athletes. Couple people that's overseas right now, and they come in and they get working and, their time off during the breaks that they have or during the summertime. And we just get after it.
And I know, like, some people have, like, different stuff that they're good at. So, like, to the shooters out there, right, when they're having a mental block, when they can't shoot and they feel like, something wrong, what advice do you have for them?
I was taught by some great Hall of Fame coaches that you always work inside out. So whenever your shot's not falling, you always attack the basket. And attack the basket doesn't mean, going to the restrictor where you can get a charge or whatever the case may be. It could be a mid-range pull-up. I'm a firm believer on mid-range. Kobe and Michael Jordan lived off the mid-range. So that is like no man's land, or what they call the lost art in basketball, because everybody wants to go to the three-point line and kind of Curry help the game, but then hurt the game too, because everybody wants to run there, and that's not a high percentage shot. I mean, he's one of the best shooters, if not the greatest shooter of all time, and he only shoots 40 to 45% from the three-point. That means out of every 10 three-pointers, he's only making 4. And that's the best shooter, arguably, of all time.
A lot of people don't realize that for sure.
They don't. And then also you can go to the bread and butter, which is a free throw. It's called a free throw. That means you have a free shot. That lessens the anxiety for some that practice it, and that's how you attack the game from inside out. You could be hot and you hit 2 or 3 and you get a heat check. You can shoot from the 3, but you also have to go in the flow of your offense. So to answer the first part of the question, accommodating the need of the player, like what position do they play, what do they need to work on, where are they going to be on the floor. A friend of mine trained an NBA player, and he only shot elbow jumpers for 45 minutes on his training 3 times a week, because on his NBA team, he only shoots elbow jump shots, because analytics, statistically, that's his high percentage shot. That's where he's going to be on the floor for his position. He was like a small forward shooting guard. So it all depends where the player's position, what's their need. I always pour into my players. Everybody that plays basketball can dribble. Joker from the Denver Nuggets can dribble, but does he have a handle? Kyrie Irving has a handle. Chris Paul has a handle. So it's a difference. So now, how do you make someone's dribbling better? Because big men, you don't want them dribbling too far from the basket. Or how do you make that person that dribbles that needs to have a handle because they have the ball in their hand majority of the time? How do you improve that? And how do you make sure that they're ambidextrous? How do you make sure if they're forced to the left, they can still handle the ball with their left, or they're forced to the right, how they can handle the ball to the right? So it's a science that goes into it a little bit too, but that's how I would address that.
And for like the kids that want to train with you but don't know how to get in contact, like how would they go about coming to you as a trainer?
Yeah, I got some good questions.
Well, I mean, shout out your Instagram page, so they can definitely go to that.
Yes. Thank you. That answer.
The kids definitely see you. I think the kids here definitely see you as somebody who's very professional athlete, professional here at this school. And I think a lot of the kids, even not only in high school, but like college, or like the kids that are in JUCO and stuff, that want to go do what you did, play overseas and stuff like that. What advice do you have for them that they don't know where to start and stuff?
Well, thank you for that. I try to be professional. I try to not have a conflict of interest. Like I said, I can just stay in the gym the whole time. When I'm after school, I try to bounce in different places. If my first child was never born, we'd have never met, because I would have never came back. I didn't prepare, planned, or play games. I always looked at it as a performance. You know, when you go to Juilliard or you go to New York City, you go to see a performance. So I always had that mindset. So leaving Delaware, I went to the Laurinburg Institute, where we were the #1 team in the country. 9 of my teammates went to the NBA. I mean, they were all 6'10", 6'11", so they just, was gifted with that. I did have an opportunity with one of the NBA D-League teams at the time, but they didn't offer me enough to compensate my income, so I put that on the shelf when my second child was born. So the professionalism always been there, and when you're making decisions, sometimes you have to make professional decisions. So when I'm around the children, I tell them, like, timing meets opportunity, and you have to make sure you're prepared. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Like I said earlier, you can do everything right, and it doesn't materialize. So always put yourself in position, no matter who sees you, who views you. You don't know who knows who. Always put yourself in the light where they're saying, oh, that person's professional, that person is respectful, that person will give you good advice, and it doesn't matter your age. The first NBA coach that believed in me, he passed this summer. He didn't know me from a can of paint, but that's the first thing he said about me. And the NBA comparison player that he gave me played 18 years in the NBA. I would not have thought that he would have compared me to Derek Fisher. I was thinking Allen Iverson and, you know what I'm saying, like Kobe Bryant, but no. And I was like, okay, that's longevity, that's consistency. And he told me to watch game film on him. And I looked and I was like, oh, okay. Like, he's a man's man, he's a player's player. Always accountable, always reliable. So that's why he played alongside Kobe for so long. So I always try to keep my professionalism at the forefront, try to stay balanced. And I will tell the students, especially basketball players that come up to me, they may ask me questions about certain things, and that's the switch. You can't go on the court and turn it on and turn it off. That's what you have to encompass or embody all the time. And then it'll bleed over into the court.
Well, I think you gave some really good advice to the athletes out there. I think that a lot of people will benefit from this episode, and thank you for being our first guest.
First guest?
Yeah.
First guest of the show. And yeah, what do you have to say to the people out there? That's it.
Y'all doing good today. So thank you for having me as a first guest first. I appreciate that. My advice that I would give is something my dad told me when I was younger. His second grade teacher told him, he's 75 years old. And I'm like, how do you remember that from, when he was in second grade? And it's something that he goes off of whatever he does in life, is always be true to yourself. You can fake it. You can, only go so long not being honest. Always be honest with yourself. Always be true to yourself. And that's with everything, whether it's school, sports, relationships, a hobby, career, job. Always be true to yourself.